Yeah, thank you, Michelle, for that very nice introduction, and a warm welcome to all of you here in the morning. I have 5 minutes to explain you something about the decade on ecosystem restoration, which is a fantastic, I think, instrument which may really provide us the real necessary changes for the next 10 years when the decade starts, 21 to 2030. It was, for me, surprising when I was assisting, Michelle explained to you I was involved in the Bonn Challenge, and when the first time at the third international meeting of the Bonn Challenge in Brazil, the government of El Salvador proposed that idea on a restoration decade in March 2018, it took only 1 year that this decade was agreed and adopted by the UN General Assembly this March. It shows how high a need the expectations are on ecosystem restoration, which means restoration of ecosystem services in the ground. And it is what I think 21 to 2030, there are so many international goals starting and happening, like the SDGs, which is a decisive time frame, really, to do something. And the decade, if you look into the text, is something which is amazing, that conservation is part of the restoration ecosystem. So the UN combined both things, and which means conserve, protect, wisely manage our remaining resources and restore what we have lost. In my view, the decade is a proof on if we mean what we say and if we act on what we have decided so far. I think this is important. And as well, if we really stop and restore or regain loss of biodiversity, if we really stop and global heating, and if we really stop soil and land degradation to save our livelihoods. I think this is a core objective of that decade. And I think the Fridays for Future youth movement, I do hope that they see that decade as their decade and that they participate and join and support the implementation of that decade. It is a global movement, and I think the decade has to become as well a movement, a global movement. But still it is on paper. And paper, of course, is something which you can write and say, look, I put it into somewhere, and it is somewhere guided, but hide it somewhere. But you need to give a paper a face. You need to give a paper something which makes it, well, worth to work with it and provide an anchor. Yeah, thank you. So I would like to share with you an idea which I have on how the decade for the African region could, well, at least one possibility could have a face in doing or in implementing a restoration, ecosystem restoration initiative which shares, lets people learn, and also lets people act together on something based on the wonderful Great Green Wall initiative. I added a line according to Neil Malawi Okavango Greenbelt. I called it like this because it's going down to the great fly routes of migrating birds, but also to rivers. It's the Eye of Africa, which combines along the Victoria Sea Lake, all the countries. and according to the West Coast, the Western African Coast Greenbelt and the Northern African Coast Greenbelt, which symbolizes only something where people can work with, but all those who live in between can work together, share together, connect together, and act together in order to benefit from it or contribute to this. So thank you. This was my introduction on the decade, and I hope you get inspired to join also my group on the decade, how the decade could really become a living instrument for the future, because I think the next decade is really a proof for us if we definitely are doing what we have decided so far. Thank you.